The sun dipped low behind the jagged hills of Dry Creek, casting long golden shadows over the weary town. Wind kicked up red dust and sent tumbleweeds rolling across the empty road that led to the outskirts, where the old McAllister Ranch stood, half forgotten, half remembered by the people of town as cursed ground. The paint had long peeled from the white fence. The gate creaked in the breeze, stubbornly held closed by a rusty chain. Inside the fence, a lonely horse grazed beside the barn, and the ranch house, though sagging at the edges, still stood firm. Inside that house, Colt McAllister scraped the last beans from the pot into his tin plate. With one arm slung over the back of a chair and the other cradling a whiskey bottle, he stared out the cracked window toward the hills. Once a legend among cattlemen and gunslingers, Colt now lived alone, ghost of the man he used to be. Just as he brought the bottle to his lips, a soft knock echoed from the front porch. He froze. Another knock, stronger this time. He stood slowly, his boots scuffing the warped wooden floor. Revolver tucked in the back of his waistband. He eased the door open, and there she was. A woman, no more than 30, stood barefoot in the dust, her pale blue dress tattered at the hem. A broken veil hung from her hat. Her cheeks were wind-burnt and smudged with grime, and her eyes, wide and green like a storm in spring, held a desperate kind of hope. "Please," she said. Her voice cracked like old paper. "I need help." Colt blinked once, twice. "You lost." "No," she whispered. "I'm looking for sanctuary." Chapter 2, The Last Supper. He let her in without another word. Something in her eyes told him she wasn't dangerous. Not to him, anyway. The woman took small steps, as if her legs had forgotten how to trust solid ground. Colt fetched her a chair, then offered his plate. She hesitated. "I don't want to take your food." "Wasn't much to begin with," he said. "We'll split it. Reckon I've shared less with worse company." She gave a tiny, tired smile and accepted. As she ate, he studied her. Her fingers trembled with each bite. A gold ring still clung to her finger, shiny, but loose, like it didn't quite belong. When she finished, she looked up and said, "My name's Lila." "Colt." She nodded slowly. "My husband's dead, killed 2 days after our wedding. Bandits burned down the homestead. They left me alive for sport." A chill crept down Colt's spine. He knew cruelty in all its forms, but hearing it from her lips made it heavier. "I ran. Got as far as I could." Lila's eyes watered, but the tears didn't fall. "I saw your light. Thought maybe I'd die on your porch, but I didn't want to die alone." "You're not dying," he said, more gruffly than he intended. She looked up, startled. He cleared his throat. "I mean, stay. You're safe here. Ain't nobody coming this far off the road unless they mean trouble. And I got trouble's number memorized." Chapter 3, Dust and Firelight. Days turned to weeks. Lila slept in the guest room, or what was left of it. Colt fixed the window panes, patched the roof, even unearthed the old piano for her. She didn't play it, just ran her fingers across the keys some evenings, like she was coaxing ghosts. Colt never asked her for more than she offered. But slowly, stories began to slip from her lips, of her childhood in Missouri, of books she used to read under an apple tree, of the fire that took her parents when she was 17. In return, Colt told her about the McAllister Ranch, once famous for the finest mustangs this side of the Rockies, about the brother he'd lost to fever, and the woman who left Colt for a banker in Santa Fe, about how he'd once shot a man in a saloon for cheating at cards, and how he hadn't drawn his gun since. "I used to believe people like me weren't meant for redemption," he said one night by the fire. Lila looked at him. "And now?" He turned toward her, face half-shadowed. "Now I ain't so sure." Their eyes locked, and for a moment, time hung still. Chapter 4, Ashes Returned to Dust. But peace in the frontier was a fragile thing. One morning, Colt returned from town with a bag of flour and the news that sent a chill through his bones. "Marston's gang is riding again," he said. "4 men dead over in Bitter Hills. 1 woman missing." Lila's spoon clattered into her coffee. "That name means something to you?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Marston, he led the men who took my husband. He's the one who laughed when he knocked me to the dirt." Colt's knuckles whitened around his mug. "If he comes here." "He won't," she said too quickly. Then softer, "He can't." But 2 nights later, the warning came, smoke on the horizon. Colt loaded his rifle. "You know how to shoot." Lila reached for the shotgun on the mantel with hands that didn't shake. "Well enough." When the gang came, they came like hell riding at their heels. 4 riders, eyes red with whiskey and rage. They circled the ranch, hooting and laughing. "You can come out now, pretty girl," one of them hollered. "We just want to finish what we started." Lila's face was pale, but her grip on the shotgun was steady. Colt took position by the porch. "Stay behind cover," he told her. Then came the first shot. Gunfire cracked like thunder. Colt dropped one of the riders clean off his horse. Lila took down another when he tried to sneak up from the back. By the time the dust cleared, only 1 man was left standing, Marston. He stumbled, blooded, toward the porch, pistol in hand. Colt's rifle jammed, but Lila stepped forward and pulled the trigger. Marston crumpled into the date. She didn't cry. She just stood there, smoke rising from the barrel. "I remember his face now," she whispered. Chapter 5, Redemption in Bloom. The town came out the next day, curious and skeptical. Sheriff Haywood examined the scene and declared it justified self-defense. Word spread quick. Colt McAllister and the woman he sheltered had taken down Marston's gang. For the first time in a decade, folks tipped their hats when they passed Colt in town. A boy even asked him to teach him to shoot. Lila stood by his side through it all, quiet but proud. One evening, a month after the shooting, Colt found her at the edge of the property, staring toward the hills. "Thinking of leaving?" he asked. She turned to him. "No, thinking of planting something." "Planting?" She pointed to the ground. "There's room here. 4 roses, or tomatoes, maybe a tree." He smiled. "I've got shovels." She looked down, then up again. "Colt, do you think a place like this could ever be called home?" He stepped closer, took her hand. "I think it already is." Chapter 6, The Wedding Tree. They planted the tree that spring. An apple tree, Lila's favorite. Colt carved their initials into its bark with the back of his old knife. They married under it, just 6 months later. No priest, no choir, just the sky, the land, and a few townsfolk who knew what survival looked like when dressed in lace. Colt kissed her hand before he kissed her lips. "I got nothing fancy to give you," he whispered, "but I'll share every meal I ever make. Every night. Every storm." Lila's voice trembled. "That's all I ever needed." The town, one so used to scandal and silence, began to speak of the McAllister Ranch again, not as cursed ground, but sacred. They said a weary bride once knocked on a dusty old gate and found more than a meal. She found a man willing to stand between her and the fire, even when he had nothing left to offer but his name and his heart.